fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
American Peninsula has always been a place where amazing action takes its hold. It's got so many places to overtake, so many areas of this track where you can go 2 wide, 3 wide. You can have battles up and down the order, every which way you go, with elevation change, with 4.31 kilometers, with 15 turns. Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, the place to be here for round 2 of your Monday night series here, your Supercar series here on the iRacing Esports Network, and presented to you by SimSpeed TV. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody watching around the world as Jake Burton goes fastest here in qualifying at this moment in time. 8 minutes, 2 laps to get it done. I'm Jake Sperry here in the commentary box. Nick Scaraju alongside me here for this one. Scott Fountain on the cameras here today. And Nick, this is interesting for a number of reasons. Of course, we weren't able to come along and broadcast the first round of the championship due to circumstances unforeseen, as Jake Maloney jumps up to second here, just half a tenth of a second off of pole. But what we are seeing here is drivers looking to try and start their early season off with some good victories, with some good result.
Yeah, that's it, Jake. Really stacked field, so yeah, there's a lot of big names and stuff in the top split that we have here. Yeah, shame we didn't get the chance to catch Zolder last week, but yeah, really looking forward to seeing what happens at Interlagos.
And that's going to be key here as driver upon driver looks to try and put themselves in the right position here in qualifying. And of course, track temperature here today is going to be key. 26 degrees. It's going to be cold here today. 32 laps worth of racing action as well. So this is going to go by not necessarily quickly, but there should be a lot of entertainment in store. But these cars fuel limited to 60% of their fuel tank at this point in time. We're looking at Jake Maloney now coming up the hill, looking to try and make that run through Desquidados boxes. Archibancadas was the corner just before that, so now start making this run here through the front stretch over towards the line, looking for improvement on time, and will not find any, will Jake Maloney. So the Trans-Tasman car behind Jake Burton, the former Trans-Tasman driver, still good friends. This is the United car of Nick Cummings coming down into lane, but Jack Widders here has just gone up to 4th.
Yeah, just seeing Nick Cummings pull into the pits, so not going ahead with a lap now, but yeah, now catching Damien Johnson out on track.
We certainly are at this point in time. John Stone coming through Jinsao, the junction corner, trying to make sure that this result is going to work out in qualifying. He's currently in 10th place. He's 6/10 of the pole position, and if he finds just 1/10, he'll jump almost half the places up the grid to the third row. Nice and tight coming over the line, looking to try and get himself cleanly through, and does not find improvement on that second lap. And we are starting to see that from a couple of drivers struggling to get that. Here's the Mustang of Steve Janssen now trying to make the run.
Yeah, we've only got only a few minutes left now, so yeah, there'll be a bit of a rush to try and get these last laps in. Hopefully we'll see a few more people move up the order.
Well, that could definitely be the case. There are a handful of drivers here out on track, but Janssen comes down in onto the lane. He wasn't on a flying lap. There are only 2 drivers at this point in time who are. One of them is Michael Taliancic. Brian Borg is not one of them at the moment who you see out on screen at the moment. One is Taliancic over the line, who goes up into position number 12. The other one is Brody Kostecki, who's just heading up the hill right now. Super 2 driver is Kostecki. He's had some very good runs in the E-Series as and when that went on, but now looking to try and make sure that he gets himself up as high as possible here in qualifying, looking to make that push over towards the line. Is there going to be enough to jump high? And the answer is a third place there, as he gets himself a 1:32.851. A great time from Brody Kostecki coming over the start-finish line. That puts everybody on the grid pretty much sorted. So let's run down how drivers are going to stack. Jake Burton and Jake Maloney make it an all-Jake front row here. First and second, 1:32.755. The fastest time from Burton. Brody Kostecki starts from third with Nick Cummings in fourth place. And then it's Jack Widdus and Corey Shepherd on row number 3. Row 4 sees Corey Preston and the man with the highest iRating in the field, James Scott, starting from 8th place in the Logitech G Ultra C Sports car. Robin Kirk goes from 9th, and Brian Borg rounds out the top 10. Nick stood by with 11 through 20.
Yeah, so we've got Adam Briggs and Damien Johnson on row 6, Steve Janssen and Michael Taliancic, Darren Lobb and Michael Rosenblatt on row 8, Kurt Stenberg and Kristen Smart on row 9, Josh Morris in 19th and Greg Sharp in 20th.
And here you see on the screen the final 5 drivers in this field from 21st over to 25th position. Rob Bowden there in the Tank SRT machine. Thomas Hinz, surprisingly, down the order. He's on row 11 with Clint Shane Smith, Daniel Hetterscheid and Samuel Collins rounding out the grid then for this one. Of course, these drivers have themselves 2 minutes to get themselves up on the grid, or they start from that place known as pit lane. And what is key is that all of these drivers will start behind the first 4 natural slots on the grid here. They will start from the finish line here out on circuit. So a lot of these drivers here from position 3, 4, 5, they're going to have an easier time of things than those on the front 2 rows, because of the fact that they are starting from an even keel instead of an uphill start, which always makes life very difficult. Those maybe in the middle of the pack, they have an easier start than others. They've got a downhill dip that they have to give themselves that little bit of advantage, and that's going to be something very, very vital to how this race is going to be run. Into the Senna S turn number 1, drivers are going to be looking for how they can find themselves in the right places. The final drivers trying to get themselves up on the grid, and once they do, the engine notes will start rising. Racing will start to get itself underway, and there is the green flag, and let's get ourselves going then for racing action. It's a clean start from both sides of the grid. Burton's got himself the overlap that's needed as they funnel on through towards turn numbers 1, 2 and 3 for the first time. A bit of side-by-side there as they went on through, but Kostecki ultimately having to fight hard then for third position as Nick Cummings has the inside at the Curve of the Soul, and ultimately nearly gets the position, does get the position, and now Kostecki immediately comes back under pressure once again here as they run down through almost 3 wides. They head themselves into turn number 4. This is the Desquita del Lago, and Kostecki trying to go around the outside has gone to Narnia and back as he drops a boatload of places.
Oh,
Oh, and there he goes. That's going to be Kostecki there involved in an incident. Didn't quite catch who that was. You got caught up. It was Jack Widders who was caught with that one there. But really a start that Jack Widders did not want, qualified so high for Jack Widders' pace, and he will not be happy there, Nick, with what Kostecki did.
Yeah, just saw Kostecki with the re-entry. Might have just been under the rear wheel of Jack Widders, and it's looked like that re-entry is, not being great for Widders. Hopefully he can get back on the pack and, get back in the fight.
And getting back in that fight is going to be key as we keep an eye out here on Corey Preston at the moment. Side by side just behind that, as that's one of the DPR cars. They're trying to get overtaken by Michael Taliancic. It looks like they're in the Pursuit Sim Racing machine. I believe that is a good move that's been done. But again, it's all about finding yourself a nice place in the pack on the opening lap. It's so very easy to see things go wrong in these early stages, and this run towards turn number 1 is going to be the prime place to get it done. You can see how close they are on the brakes into the right of turn 1. It's all nice and calm for the moment with that pack, but look at how feisty it is here in the mid pack. You got more side by side just behind them here as we just saw them go through the curve of Sol. And really what we are seeing here is every driver trying to get themselves all tucked up nice and neat, making sure that they are in the right place to have this fight and to be pretty much not worrying, as there's Brian Borg right now in the middle of a DPR sandwich.
Yeah, good to see everyone cleanly through the center S and through the back part of the circuit. Just as I say that, a quick knock, I think, from Damien Johnson, who's just lost a position in that.
Yep, you can see how aggressive Kostecki's being at the moment, trying to get the move done. Now you see the DPR car fighting it out with one of the Exto gaming machines out on track. This is Corey Preston trying to deal with this battle here, trying to get through Briggs, but ultimately Briggs hung out to dry. Has to be careful, still has the inside, but a left hand down the hill of Mahulo and has done well. So Kostecki's got his place, but ultimately Adam Briggs finds a way through on Corey Preston. That one for 8th position. Taliancic on the back there in 10th place, trying to find a way through, but ultimately not quite there. Here's the battle at the front though. Jake Burton, Jake Maloney, both of whom are out to a 1.8 second margin here ahead of Nick Cummings, and on the brakes into the left, Jake Burton, fastest lap of the race, 1:33.4, beaten by James Scott, who is currently in 4th place, fighting it for 3rd, and has just got himself side by side just behind here with Nick Cummings, and there's Corey Shepherd behind that as well. You can turn the camera back a little bit to this battle, and you can see just how hard these three are fighting at the moment as the Holden tries to hold off the two Mustangs, but at this stage, on the brakes, here comes Corey Shepherd, and he can't quite get it done.
Yeah, Nick Cummings giving a bit of a hip check to Corey Shepherd coming through, so a little bit of rubbing here, but yeah, thankfully no incidents as of yet.
Well, no incidents as of yet, but what we are seeing here is a lot of drivers getting close. Look how feisty it is in the background. There's Taliancic trying to go the long way round Ferradura, the double apex right-hander, and on the brakes once more. It is going to be a tough, tall order to get this one done. So once more, it will be weight behind for Robin Kirk, and this is one of the keys here that we're looking at right now here, Nick. It's a case of drivers trying to go down the inside. Oh, that was brave Stenny, trying to get that move done. The man from Western Australia tried to get through, and there's a big wiggle for Janssen in the background as well. Somehow gathers it up together. That's Rob Bowden trying to go around the outside in the tanked SRT car. Back in front, down the inside. Looks another DPR car. Here comes one Mr. Darren Lobb, and he sent one there on one Mr. Kurt Stenberg, who's now going to be on the wrong side of the freight train.
Yeah, still very cold tyres, seeing the guys go through Ferradura and Larania. The slow speed corner's still seeing a lot of twitching, but yeah, it looks like the tyres are starting to come up to temperature now.
And down in towards turn number 1 once again. Stenberg around the outside, trying to pick up the move. He's got the inside at 2, and oh no, it's gone massively wrong. Into the Armco goes Stenberg after contact. It really didn't leave much room, was probably expecting driver to be just a little bit further away from where he was, and look at how he gets swamped now as Hetterscheid decides to move down to the middle, trying to find any little bit of space. This mid-pack is crazy at this point in time, and in all of this, James Scott has moved up into third place. But there's Hetterscheid down the inside of the Penrite-sponsored car there, trying to find a way by through. But what can he do on Greg Sharp as part of the Stealth Simforce machine? Can't do much, and there's more side-by-side here in the back of the pack as the likes of Co all get through. And there's a spinner, and that is going to be Corey Preston. So that's Corey Preston around then in the number 21 car. Let's try and get a replay and see what's happened. There was contact with Adam Briggs heading up into that corner. So if we can get a replay here, brought to you by Motum Simulation, you can see that up on your screen right about now. There's Corey Preston around, and you can see it's into this right-hander, Nick, where we see all of the issues come about. You can see they get close. It's a tough braking zone here. You're turning and braking. Preston's wide on the outside. There's the turn, and then around the outside, redressing the position and waiting there is Adam Briggs.
Yeah, it's through Ferradura and Lara Niho, so yeah, double right-hand corner, a lot of lateral pressure on the car under brakes, so yeah, just see them come together, so hopefully they can get back out there.
Well, hopefully they can get back out there, but they will lose a whole boatload of positions at the moment here in this race. I want to look at these at the front here because this is Jake Burton and Jake Maloney, and they've just switched places. So Jake Maloney has taken the race lead here in this race. And how has that happened? You may have wondered, ladies and gentlemen. They were side by side in towards turn number 1, and the move was done around the outside to get that position. So Jake Maloney has got himself the race lead at this point in time, but Jake Burton will not be wanting to give up, as just there in the background, that's Brody Kostecki through and Corey Shepherd, who's now immediately under pressure from Damien Johnstone, trying to find a way around the outside here into the Bico de Pato, the Duxbill corner, and again, Damien Johnstone just has to sit and wait behind. He's a fuel-saving specialist, he will be trying to do, but more often than not, Nick, Damien Johnstone is the wrong side of the fuel gauge.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Great work too with Maloney and Burton. So not only switching positions, but still maintaining that 2.5 second gap. So if they can work together, they can hopefully break that gap even more to James Scott and the rest of the field.
But the key here is that they've lost a lot of time over the course of this lap. They had a gap over 3 seconds when they went by the start-finish line last time. The gap between the leader and James Scott is down to 2.8 seconds. So that's just a little point for concern at the moment here. Lap 6 out of 32 that we see at the moment as these drivers make their way 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th all in a train down the Reto Aposta all the way to this corner, to Skida de Lago. Here, this fantastic left-hand corner 4 and 5 out on the track, and going to be a case of all these drivers here in this middle of the pack working out strategy here at this point in time. So we see just a little bit further back down in the field, that's Steve Janssen and co in this massive sweeping train behind Michael Taliancic, who is currently classified in 8th place overall. And you can see how every car wants to try and get themselves into position. Josh Morris there in the Team Hyperdrive machine there, 6th gear sponsorship on the side of it, trying to find a way through. And there is Stenberg trying to look down the inside of Janssen. That's a little bit cheeky there, trying to find a way through as we take an onboard perspective. Here's the back of Rob Bowden, and this is pack mentality racing.
Yeah, Steve Janssen not only has been right under that rear wing of Josh Morris, but also Steinberg on his tail. So yeah, a lot of action through that mid-pack.
Yeah, and that mid-pack's going to be really, really key here to see just how these drivers are going to go. Up the hill, you can see is Morris trying to lead a run from Janssen and Stenberg, and the likes of Greg Sharp there in 17th, who's gained a couple places over the last couple of laps. That's going to be a key battleground as Nick Cummings has just lost the place I've seen on the timing tower to Brody Kostecki, it seems, out on track. So Kostecki now up into 4th position here, making the move on Nick Cummings, and all of a sudden Kostecki is back on a charge, and we are not surprised at this charge, but only 4 seconds off the leaders. Would like to pick up some big points. A lot of drivers racing for a lot more than sometimes just a championship push. Nick, iRacing and safety rating really do come into the foreground.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone will need to be respecting those track limits and trying to stay off each other's paint, because yeah, you can end up with a penalty very, very quickly.
Certainly can, and you can see behind how Corey Shepherd is starting to be really put underneath the cosh by one Mr. Damien Johnstone. It says Mr. Antenna on the side of his car, and well, he'll be looking to dial up a connection and hoping that he has got the signal that he needs to go and get the run up through from 6th position at this moment in time. But you got Damien Johnstone there in 7th, wanting to try and make a move. He's close right now, and it's all about setting up the run up this corner, Junsao, the junction corner. And if you can get the run right, as he's trying to do, Johnstone, in the Gone Rogue Motorsports car, you can really start to make that push towards turn number 1. The big difference, though, is you got draft from draft from draft from draft, and that is the big issue for Damien Johnstone. He is stuck, bottoming out at the same level as everybody else.
Just catching some of the action from 13th to 16th. A lot of paint getting traded. Looks like we've just had Steve Jansen drop back down to 18th. So, yeah, action everywhere. Not only at the front, but yeah, right down the through the middle and the back as well.
Absolutely, and that was a 2-into-1 at Junsao with Brian Borg taking advantage of Greg Sharp running. I don't believe it was Greg Sharp, sorry. I believe that was Jack Widdett diving in too deep on his recovery drive, trying to find a way through. So this pack really starting to heat up. Jack Widdett trying to find a way through, and you see a lot of paints, a lot of cars in this mid-pack who have those scrapes on the outside of the vehicle, indicating that they have been involved in a little bit of fisticuffs. These are touring cars, so to speak. So the style of racing is, okay, there's no contact, but there's contact.
Yeah, Steve
Down
Jansen.
the hill. Now after you, my man.
Oh, yep, yeah, it's exactly right. Steve Jansen with a fair bit of panel damage, but you can see that they're all trading paint right through that mid-pack at the moment.
They certainly are, and you can see now how these drivers on lap 8, they're 1/4 way through this race. They're all trying to pick themselves, go through, as Brody Kostecki threw up into 3rd place now, as James Scott has lost that position. So let's get a replay, see exactly how that one came about as the front two nose to tail. So Brody Kostecki then up into 3rd position, finding a way through on James Scott, as we'll see on the Motum simulation replay just how this one happened. This is the mid part of the lap into the right of the Laranjina, and just like that, Kostecki gets an easy move. James Scott, a former champion in this series, knows how to race, knows how consistency is key for this season. Back to live coverage then, as Brody Kostecki is there in 3rd. The top two still nose to tail, but they've crucially extended that gap to the cars behind from 2 seconds over to 3 seconds. Back to Steve Jansen, though, who's on the back of Jack Widdett, still here, trying to find a way through. Brian Borg at the front of this train, trying to hold off a train of, just counting it as they go through, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars in this train, and they have lost contact with the likes of Rob Bowden and Josh Morris in front through all the battling that they've done. Now, here's one of the issues they've got when they go through and have this sort of scrap right now here. When you look at things, Nick, it's a case of, well, when you push yourself away through in a large pack like this, you've got to make sure that the position is made quickly. If you can't make the position early, you've got the likes of Thomas Hinz in this pack, then you are going to be stuck waiting for a clean opportunity. You get dirty opportunities, pack fragments.
Yeah, exactly. And with Interlagos being such a wide circuit, with cars running too wide, it is going to slow them up, not getting the optimal line. So, yeah, if you're trailing 2 cars fighting each other, it will slow all 3 of you up.
We can see here from this fantastic low helicopter moving away through towards turn number 1 out on circuit. There's down the inside Morris getting it through on Rob Bowden, as you can see Thomas Hinz looking at the inside of Greg Sharp, so he can't quite get that move done, and immediately comes under pressure from Clint Shane Smith. Can't find a way through. Mid-pack starting to heat up then in terms of the scrap at the moment. Josh Morris there in the Team Hyperdrive Mustang making a way through on Rob Bowden for the luckiest/unluckiest place, being 13th, a little ways to get to Christian Smart. That gap now up over 3 seconds between those drivers at the moment. So Josh Morris here just needs to put the hammer down, just needs to think, as right there in the background there you can see once again that's Clint Shane Smith in a big scrap, and that's Adam Briggs trying to get back through the pack.
Yeah, you'd almost think that these guys are racing for the front. There's so many dives. Yeah, really, really hard racing. So great to see in this split.
Absolutely, and they are battling just in front as well. As you can see, the likes there of Christian Smart, Darren Lobb, Michael Rosenblatt is in there as well, as we look at Rob Bowden trying to find a way back to the rear of the Mustang in front there in the Holden, trying to get as close as possible here at this stage, but just can't quite manage it for getting up through the field. So hopefully we can get a little look at what's going on just in front of them right now, because it's looking mighty interesting from 8th on backwards here behind Michael Talianchis. This is Darren Lobb with a great run here through the final couple of corners, looking down to the inside here of turn number 1, and can't quite pick up the move in the Mustang. They're on the Holden. They are exactly identical here in iRacing as they try and push on forward. So in terms of your parity argument, there's no argument to be had. It's all about preference. Are you a Holden boy or are you a Ford boy at this point in time? But look at Darren Lobb, again trying to pick up the run off of the Curve de Sol, looking at turn number 4, and again has to sit back into line. Nothing concrete to go down the inside yet, Nick.
Yeah, just seeing a few cars on the run on the straight. We did see from Rob Bowden a small twitch, so you can definitely tell that speed difference down the straight into the center S about your run onto the straight.
Certainly can, and that will be all different to set up. Jack Widders trying to go the long way around Brian Borg at the horseshoe corner, Ferradura, and can he put a nose to the inside? He'll definitely attempt it here, try and get this one done. Has to slow himself right down. Let's get some Noah's Ark racing here. They're 2 wide, they're 3 deep as they go on through Mahulo corner, not Mahulo corner, and now into the beak of the pattern. Mahulo is the next corner after this. There's Jack Widders down the inside. Brian Borg, nothing to argue against. Bit of contact between the two of them. Now down the hill they come along, and ultimately Jack Widders just about holding the outside. It's got to go the long way around the next left-hander, and it's left for the next 2 corners as well. This is a really big scrap that we're seeing between these two, and Widders up the hill trying to get this one all sorted out, and cannot quite yet find himself in the best possible place. Has he got the run on the outside in towards turn number 1? He's going to have to stay out there because Brian Borg's defending behind that as well. You can see just how incredible this is as Thomas Hinds and Greg Sharp start fighting it out, scrapping it out as well. Down the inside at turn 2, they've been side by side for 2/3 of a lap, and Borgie's just held on. Contact from Hinds, who's going to pick up another one.
Yeah, very opportunistic by Hinds. Picked that gap perfect. So good work.
Absolutely fantastic across to the beams as well from Greg Sharp, immediately trying to go on the offensive. James Scott, though, we look at here in 4th position. Out on circuit in 3rd is Brody Kostecki, who's been unable to shake James Scott at the moment, or any of the drivers in this pack who have all stayed in the same places. Cummings in 5th, Shepherd in 6th, John Stone in 7th. They're not a million miles away from each other right now, and that's going to be a little concerning for these drivers here on lap 12, going on towards lap 13 here of 32. It's going to be all about who's in the best possible place to have their battle with the front 2, currently split by just 0.4 of a second as they come up the hill. That's going to be something really interesting to keep in mind. There are battles for the race win, for the podium, for the top 5, and even this one's still going on right now for 13th and 14th.
Yeah, Maloney and Burton now working together, just pushing that gap. It was over 4 seconds just before. Kostecki's just pulled him back a little bit, but it really does look like it might end up being a 2-horse race between Jake Maloney and Jake Burton.
We have pitters. So the first lot of the strategy, Michael Talianchich is one of them to come in. Brian Borg also down in on the lane. So we got drivers taking their stop here on lap 13 of 32. Now the early stop has one good benefit. That is you get the undercut on the tyres, you get fresh rubber to go out and attack. The bad news is, Nick, when you go onto that rubber, you get yourself going forward, is that later in the race, you're going to be on old tyres and struggling compared to those who have fresher rubber.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully the degradation isn't too much with the colder conditions in the afternoon here at Interlagos. Yeah, we'll be curious to see.
Well, what is curious right now is how Kurt Stenberg has absolutely monstered past Michael Talianchich in the stop. And now here's something very key about pit stops at Interlagos. You're going at the fastest point on circuit all the way down to the slowest. And it is so easy just to overstep the mark here, Nick, and get 15 extra seconds in your race because of the fact that you found yourself with a speeding on pit lane penalty.
Yeah, I was catching those cars coming so fast into pit lane, really hard on the brakes. So yeah, I'm sure the practice early on in the test sessions and is to make sure that you can pull it up in the least amount of time you can.
And that's going to be crucial here for these drivers. They look to try and push on with this race as drivers start to make a couple mistakes here and there as we're looking at Kurt Stenberg on the outlap. But this is the battle, 6th and 7th we're looking at right now. Corey Shepherd in the antenna car going up against Damien Johnstone in the Gone Rogue Motorsports Holden ZB Commodore at this stage, trying to get a run through at Reto Aposta all the way to the Interlagos corner, and on the brakes he goes, looking at this left-hander, two left-handers out on track, and the key here for Johnstone, Nick, surely is waiting for the stop. If he's staying behind all this time, how much fuel is he saving? The answer's surely got to be a lot.
Yeah, but he is pushing really hard. So yeah, starting 12th on the grid up to 7th. So a really good effort by Damien Johnston.
Absolutely, it has been a great job as Kurt Stenberg seemingly getting a drive-through penalty for 17 instant points then, it seems. And it's worth talking about the instant point limit here around this place. They get 17 instant points before a drive-through penalty, 25 instants, and they get disqualified as Johnstone looking at just a little slide there from one Mr. Corey Shepherd. As it's also going on here, as you can see on the timing tower, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th at this point in time. You've got likes of Michael Rosenblatt there trying to get by Robin Kirk. But for Damien Johnstone here, he's just sat there, he's just waiting. And I believe as we look at drivers looking to make their choices, Jake Maloney has just dived in from the race lead and Johnstone follows. Also in then, Robin Kirk comes in. Also in, Michael Rosenblatt comes in. So we look at Johnstone here, looking to hit himself on his marks, looking for his stop. Up on the jacks he'll go. Maloney's going to be key to work out where he's going to come out then in all of this as well. He'll have one of the last pit boxes to get himself out and going as someone very badly misses their pit box there as Maloney is out and away and will be out in traffic. It looked to me like one of those drivers really got it wrong. It looked like Robin Kirk, but Maloney is out of the pits at this point in time. You can see there the likes of Christian Smart we're focusing on in terms of the battle out on track here, but Maloney has come out, which is crucial with Clint Shane Smith and co just in front, so needing a bit of clean air. He has not here, Nick.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So he will be held up by a few of the slower cars trying to get that time back on Jake Burton. So yeah, it'll be curious to watch the front of the field to see when Jake Burton does pull in.
Yep, and that's going to be crucial. Smart trying to chase down Darren Lobb here for 6th position on the road at the moment. We are in the middle of the pit stop cycle as James Scott in 3rd at the moment, trying to chase down Brody Kostecki, who is in 2nd. Jake Burton has the option here, try and cover off the pit stop here from the race lead. And in fact, everybody coming in then on this lap 15. One driver staying out to go to the halfway stage lap. That is Nick Gumming. So in Burton, Kostecki, Scott, Shepherd, everybody trying to cover off Maloney, at this point in time. Smart is in, so only 2 drivers currently have stayed out. And now the question becomes, where is Maloney in comparison to all of this right now? And he is finding himself over through the front stretch at this stage. Where will Burton come out as he will look to try and get himself off of the Jackson away? Here, there he goes. There is Jake Maloney. This is going to be mighty close when they come out of the pit. But I think Burton here is just going to manage this one to get himself ahead. And at this point here, you can see Maloney heading through turn number 3. There is Jake Burton. There goes through the RA2 car of Thomas Hinds. And Burton has the race lead back on strategy here, Nick.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. But Maloney does have warmer tyres, so he might be able to get one up. He's got a very short amount of time while Burton is on cold tyres, so he might be able to just edge it past him.
Well, it's all about getting onto the back and then just sitting and waiting. These 2 drivers know each other like the back of their hands. They've been fighting against each other for many a year in sim racing circles, and they'll be hoping that they have what it takes to pick up the race win. At the opening round of this championship, it was Jake Maloney who picked up the victory at Zolder, which of course we didn't see on the cameras. So it's Maloney with the championship lead overall, but there is Jake Burton wanting to get one back and effectively go 1-1 in terms of the way that this championship is going. More takers will or should be coming down onto the lane this time. In comes Nick Cummings, in comes Darren Lobb, and that would put Thomas Hinds at this point in time into the race lead, depending on if he comes down in. Robin Kirk right now we focus on at the moment. He's trying to find a way past Rob Bowden here in the tanked SRT machine. 3-car scrap out on track, with both of them closing down Josh Morris.
Yeah, it looks like the others have come into the pits, so that does put Burton and Maloney back out on front of the track at the moment.
It does, and Jake Maloney's just set the fastest lap of the race as well, a 1:33.1, trying to get the best out of the tyres. So now the leaders back where they are again, as that's Brian Borg falling 1 lap down as he comes out of the pit. So that's going to be something just to keep in mind, as there is Corey Shepherd in 5th, there is Nick Cummings in 6th place, Taliancic there in 7th, so one driver has definitely exited stage left from that battle, that one being one Mr. Damien Johnstone, it seems, at this time, who is right down at the back of the field after his escapades. But you can see how much time Nick Cummings has lost by staying out 2 laps longer than Jake Maloney and 1 lap longer than all of the drivers he was racing against.
Yeah, that's right, Jake, and we have passed the halfway mark now of this race, so you're really starting to get down to the business end.
Absolutely we are, and this is what is key here from these drivers as we get into the crunch time of this battle that we are seeing out on the circuit. The race lead within a second of each other at this point in time, as Maloney, we go on board up the hill through the left-hand bend. This is the Skida Dos box. Sorry, that's Archie Bankadas. This is the Skida Dos boxes. The Dos boxes there on the right-hand side, and you can see all the fans in attendance virtually trying to get themselves going forward. So on the brakes they go. Burton responds with his own fastest lap on 1 lap fresher tyres. That's going to make life tough here for Jake Maloney, as Brody Kostecki actually sets the fastest lap. But Kostecki, remember, who was 4 seconds behind these drivers when they came into the pits, is now 6 seconds back here of the race lead.
Yeah, and with a bit of a gap to James Scott now, so if he can try and really chip away at that gap to Maloney and Burton, he might be in with a chance.
Absolutely he will. We got a little bit of side-by-side, hopefully a little bit further back in the pack. Adam Briggs and Corey Preston going at it at the moment. A little bit further down, you can see there on the timing stand, they're switching places time and again. I think Briggs may have just found the way through, and he has done, just by looking at the timing stands, by Corey Preston's virtue of running wide, it seems, out on circuit. But Maloney here trying to stay with Jake Burton, as we're seeing at this point in time. 1.1 seconds now the gap, and that is a crucial marker in terms of the way this race is going. Jake Maloney 1 second at this point in time. 1 second means a whole heap of a lot.
Yeah, that's right. Burton might be able to break that draft, especially on the really, really fast straights. Like, they are hitting speeds of over 250 k's an hour, so yeah, if Burton could get that advantage of not giving that aero drag to Maloney, it would all the more to him.
All the more indeed, as he comes over the line once more and holds himself a really good margin. So Jake Burton leads this one by 1 second over Jake Maloney. Brody Kostecki in 3rd with 4th position James Scott. Then you've got Corey Shepherd and Nick Cummings with Taliancic 7th, Rosenblatt in 8th. Christian Smart is in 9th position, and Darren Lobb has rounded out the top 10 here at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen. Josh Morris currently in 11th, fighting Rob Bowden for 12th position out on the road, and those are some interesting battles that we will be hoping to see in the second half of this race. A very interesting race for a whole number of reasons, and the key one is a lot of drivers coming in before the halfway stage with that fuel restriction. This may just be a 1 or a 2 stop race depending on who has saved the fuel.
Yeah, just mentioning with Josh Morris and Rob Bowden too, so both of them are up around 8 or 9 positions, so making the most of the pit strategy, and as well with those busy car trains that we witnessed in the first half of the race.
And it's those battle packs that we were seeing early on. You can see Bowden right up behind the Team Hyperdrive machine. They used to be in all neon, but their livery now looks a little bit more striking, but you can't be much more striking than that tanked SRT livery with the, it seems like a crocodile there on the rear wheel as they go on through, and he'll be wanting to snap away through as quickly as possible. But you've also got to remember, Robin Kirk, you call him captain if you want to, trying to find any opportunity to get a chance to go through in the DPR car. DPR have not had the best of runs, as this is Hetterscheid and Sharp fighting for the final spot inside the top 20. Beaker to Pato, comfortable through that section, but Dan Hetterscheid really under pressure here from Greg Sharp, trying to make sure that he stays in a range, in a position where he's not going to be too worried, as there's a change for 8th place that I've just seen on the timing standards. Christian Smart and Michael Rosenblatt switch places here, side by side through 1, in through 2, and now looking to go all the way around the outside of 3 here at this stage is Rosenblatt, trying to get this one done here and find a way through on Christian Smart, who is definitely not giving this one up. You can see Darren Lobb just behind, but again, Rosenblatt back into line. Smart holding the place. Very, very accomplished.
Yeah, that's it, Jake. Rosenblatt very, very hard on the brakes into Interlagos. Some great racing there.
Absolutely, some fantastic racing, but ultimately you can see Robin Kirk getting tucked up underneath. Has an angle to the inside if he wants to go and use it, but look how late on the brakes. There is one Mr. Michael Rosenblatt. Darren Lobb has nothing to argue against at this stage. Robin Kirk there just behind. This battle, DPR cars want to make their way through, with the likes of Bonan and co starting to try and get themselves into the mix. The mid-pack starting to just heat up, starting to stew a little bit, and they can't afford really here to battle too hard, Nick, because just behind them by a couple of seconds is Steve Janssen in 14th place. The last thing they would want is drivers behind starting to work out, okay, well, we can get down the inside, we can start taking some places. That'll be a nice carrot on the stick for Steve Janssen to catch this 3-car pack.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jake. And as well, we've still got over 10 laps, so you'd be more advantageous trying to sit in than rubbing pain and losing those precious incident points.
And of course, those instant points are very, very vital for a whole number of reasons. And that's Rosenblatt straight off there at turn number 1. He's gone straight on, so let's get ourselves, hopefully, a Motum simulation replay. See exactly what has happened to Michael Rosenblatt fighting with what was going to be Darren Lobb down the inside. On the brakes they go. He's just overcooked it there. Just gone far too deep, trying to play chicken, and ultimately, he's the one who ends up like James Dean.
Yeah, that's it. There's no grip at all on that grass. It looks like he ran so wide he might have dropped a wheel off, but very quick to redress and to get back into it. Only lost position by the looks of it.
Only one position, but it's the time that will hurt, because that's 3 seconds. This is Thomas Hinz trying to find a way by Jack Widders at the moment through the right-hand double right-hander here of Ferradura. Right-hand double right-hander? That doesn't make much English sense, but here we go. Thomas Hinz trying to find a way to get a pass done, because he knows next up for the R2 man, if he can find a way through here, it will be Adam Briggs in 15th position that he can get a focus on. On the brakes, right-hand hairpin comes up, one of the slowest points on the circuit, but again, it's all about setup through the middle sector.
Yeah, just as you see him coming out of Youngcow into Sabuta de boxes, really got to get that car set up for that high-speed run back into the Center S's down the end of the straight.
Yeah, you certainly do. I want to keep an eye on the race lead as well, because that gap has come down from 1 second about 5 laps ago down to half a second once again. So you got Burton and Maloney here pretty much trading times at this moment. The gap just slowly being whittled away, almost like an artist trying to paint at the moment is Jake Maloney. He never puts a massive chuck of paint over the entirety of the car. It's just small dabs, small brushes that we see at the moment from Jake Maloney, who's effectively trying to Bob Ross's way to victory.
Just seeing that consistency too from Maloney, I know, but Jake Burton did have the fastest lap of the race only a few laps ago, but it looks like Maloney just keeping that consistency in to try and work away at that lead of Jake Burton.
And that's the key here. It's all about the lead. It's all about preserving and maintaining the gap at this point in time. The gap, though, has just extended out over to a second, so Jake Burton has suddenly got the hurry-up message, it seems, and he has really tried to work on forward and get himself going. Look at Thomas Hinz again, though, trying to go down the inside and make the move here to get this one done on Jack Widders, but he can't quite find that opportunity yet to make that one happen. He's looking every which way to get it going forward, but sometimes it's got to be a case of waiting a bit more. And there's Clint Shane Smith. He's trying to find himself an opportunity up into 18th place as he tries to go by Corey Preston in the number 21 car. Cannot find any opportunities as of yet to make that a reality.
Yeah, Clint Shane Smith and Corey Preston, both are quite achievers. We haven't really seen too much of them this race, but just chipping away and getting those lap times in.
See, through the front stretch towards turn number 1, trying to get close enough to make a move. Maybe a little half look there from Clint Shane Smith, but again, just sitting, just waiting, hoping that he can force an error out of the driver in front. And one of the keys here to Clint's style of racing is that he is not going to be someone who goes for the uberly aggressive move as he tries to make a way by driver here and driver there. You can see him tucked up underneath, getting himself to a couple of tenths of a second, but again, on the brakes, Corey Preston just able to brake that little bit later, but this time it's going to cost him slightly there, running wide, missing the apex through the first part there of the Interlagos. And just like this, Clint Shane Smith looking for the inside at the next right, but this is not a place you want to be really sending a car up the inside. It's so tough. It's such a tight corner to get it all sorted at that sort of speed.
Yeah, Ferradura and La Hania, seeing the guys go really, really deep in the brakes there, and you've really got to get that car rotated through those S's and Pinario.
Exactly, and we're seeing here at the Bica de Pato right now just how easy it is. Just get that slide with these vehicles, oversteer and understeer at the same time, that rear axle, and it's always a tough car. Try and negotiate a way around. I want to keep an eye on 8th and 9th, if that is possible at this point in time. Just seeing on the ticker timing stand right now that Darren Lobb has been really close to the back of Christian Smart time and time again. In fact, it says Smart on the right of the right hand side of his car. So sponsored by BetSmart, he wants to get by Smart at this point in time. So they're just dipping a couple of tyres off there onto the AstroTurf as they head through. Smart very heavily defending initially, but moves back into line to take the apex of the corner. And now that's going to be key because Christian Smart is trying to maneuver his car in such a way that Darren Lobb has the least possible mitigated advantage.
Yeah, seeing Christian Smart running back and forth off the racing line. So yeah, even seeing them taking a really, really defensive line, so be holding Darren Lobb up quite a lot. Looks like Darren Lobb might just have that pace to get past. So
the key here in this race is that Michael Taliancic is 3 seconds down the road from Christian Smart. He doesn't feel like he can catch, so he'll defend for the final 9 laps, which will turn to 8 laps here when they cross the line, as Jake Burton leading this one by 9/10 of a second over Jake Maloney. Here's one of the really frustrating things right now for Maloney is the fact he can't get within half a second. He can't put his car in a position at Trans-Tasman Racing Machine to get anywhere near making an overtake. He closes a whole 10th here through the first sector, and ultimately it's on the straights and through these sorts of corners where Jake Burton just casually gathers that time back up again.
yeah, it is interesting seeing Burton seems to be getting a great run out of Yanko right onto that main straight and extending that lead, but it does seem like Maloney can work just a little bit better with the tighter corners.
Yep, and that's going to be key. This is 3rd and 4th. Brody Kostecki and James Scott. That gap is 8/10 of a second, and Brody Kostecki has been unable all race long to break away from James Scott, despite the start that Kostecki had, dropping backwards through the field after contact with Jack Widders. Tried to work his way back through, and he is back into 3rd position at this point in time. So James Scott trying to get close, but at the moment he's again same place as Jake Maloney, who's now got the gap at 1.1 seconds to Jake Burton, unable to find a way close enough to get into that position to make it happen just in front of Steve Janssen. There goes around Robin Kirk there with a bit of a half spin there at the Laranjina corner into the Pinarino, and just like that, Rob Bowden there in 12th. It's on for the top 10. Rosenblatt and Morris all having this big old scrap going on for one top 10 place. And Josh Morris now, well, the nerves will be shaking. He's got 7 laps to hold 2 very, very feisty cars behind.
Yeah, that's it. Very Interlagos business up front and party at the back with the guys fighting for the top 10 positions. A lot of scraps and a lot of paint swapping.
Exactly, and this is going to be crucial here for these drivers. They've got to make sure that they have a faultless end to this race. If they want to pick up places one at a time, they've got to really pick it up. And of course, we've seen how Rosenblatt has been falling backwards and more backwards here over the course of this one. Puff of smoke as he locks up the front left in towards turn number 1. That brings Bowden tucked up underneath onto the rear, hoping he's got a run here through turn 3 over towards the Desquita de Lago down the Reto Aposta. So it's close between these drivers trying to get this one done, but ultimately at this stage it's another case of, can there be a look right now? Answer is going to be an affirmative no, as Thomas Hinz looks to just try and get into the mirrors of one Mr. Jack Widders in front, and again, no place for that to happen just now.
Yeah, Rob Bowden, an absolute demon under brakes. I was just catching his braking delay into the center S's. He's really getting up on the rear bumper of Rosenblatt.
I just also want to keep an eye out on the battle going on at the front of the field, because all of a sudden, gap's up to 1.4 seconds now for Jake Burton. He's stretching his legs as Thomas Hinz again tucked underneath, trying to find a way through, but they can see Jake Maloney right now here with Jake Burton. That gap 1.3 as they cross the line. Jake Burton has himself the advantage. He's got himself the smallest gap. It's enough of a gap that he can feel comfortable enough, you could say at this stage, Nick, just to try and walk away from the rest of this race. He knows if he's faultless, he just hits his marks, that Jake Maloney just cannot catch up.
Yeah, that's right. And that strategy as well, just leaving it a few more laps sticking out, so he will have the tyre advantage now over Jake Maloney.
And that tyre advantage really coming into play here as they go on through. James Scott has got his gap down for the podium to 0.6 of a second on board then from just above the sticker here as we look over towards up the hill. Ferradura double apex right, nice and narrow here from James Scott, trying to pick up as much of a run off of the exit. You can see Kostecki now starting to look at his safety points and saying, well, if I can run a little bit wide, I can start using them maybe a little bit more nefariously. The safety rating can always be recovered. iRacing is something that's a little bit tougher to deal with around circuits. So you look at what's going to happen right now. It's a case of down the hill, Brody Kostecki has got to hold on here against a former champion in this series, such as James Scott.
Just seeing James Scott hard on the brakes in the young cow, so it looks like he'll get a good run out, but yeah, just maybe that little bit too far to get that draft advantage onto the straight into the S's.
Well, this is going to be a crucial little battle here as final stages of this race come into full view here, ladies and gentlemen, as driver upon driver looks for their place. We've got ourselves 28, 29, 30, 31 and 32 remaining, so 5 laps to go here at Interlagos, where James Scott wants the podium here compared to Brody Kostecki. The gap still remaining at 0.6 of a second. It's like putting a rubber band between them, and the gap will never change, it seems, at this point in time. Still got those scraps going on for the top 10. Thomas Hinz has got an absolute stormer of a run here, trying to make this move happen. Looking down to the inside of Jack Widders. Has he got the move done on the inside? And the answer is no, because Widders very accomplished there to hold it around the outside, and even with their battling right now, they are actually closing to Robin Kirk in 15th.
Yeah, good work by Thomas Hinz. Just taking his nose out, not wanting to rub too much paint. They are hitting the closing stages of the race, so not wanting to throw it away with a silly accident.
And that silly accident can be just a couple of places here and there, and sometimes you really don't want it, using all of the road on the outside. You can see there early on the brakes as well from Jack Widders, trying to defend, trying to slow down Hinzy as much as possible to get the power back on again and start running away with a little bit more out here on track. Scott's gap has extended to 0.9 of a second, over to a second, but look at what's behind Josh Morris at this point in time in this top 10 scrap, because look who's on the back. You've got the likes of Steve Janssen there. You've got Adam Briggs on the back of this one as well. It's going to become a 5-car scrap for one top 10 place position, and actually sometimes getting more cars in the battle is more beneficial, because when everyone starts scrapping behind you, you've got more or less to worry about. But at the moment, you can see here from the car in 11th place, Michael Rosenblatt in number 14. Car 24 is going to be tucked up here with a whole heap of dramas. Going to have to try and defend this one on the inside as they go towards turn 1 and 2. The Senna S once again on the brakes they go with 4 to go. Has he got the move done? No, he's going to have to stay behind even longer to try and get this one done. Josh Morris placing his car expertly at this point in time.
Yeah, same with Rob Bowden, just catching a front row seat to the action happening in front of him, but he's close enough that as soon as one of them makes a very slight mistake, he'll be, right past them.
Well, he's going to have to hope that he gets by them pretty quickly here, because old Father Time is starting to knock on the door and say, you don't have long left in terms of this race, my friend. So we'll see what old Mo, and that's momentum, will have in terms of getting through. But look at Steve Janssen just behind Rob Bowden. This might just be the case of pick one off, one at a time, lap at a time for those in the back of this pack here as they start to try and really get aggressive. Maloney bringing his gap at the front of the field down to 1 second now at this point in time, as these 5 drivers make their way through the Bico de Pato and back down the hill once again. You can see how much they're checking up and trying to find a bit of space on this track.
Yeah, still really wide, so you can see a few different apexes and a few different lines taken by some of the drivers, but it's keeping them bunched really together. It's interesting seeing Rob Bowden come out of Yanko. He always seems to struggle getting the power down, but when he comes into the S's, he always seems to be braking a lot harder than everyone else.
That definitely does seem to be the case. Gap 9/10 now here at the front of the field as you got Hinsey right now. Look at this in front of them here as there goes Jack Widders trying to get through on Robin Kirk, and down on the inside. Has he got the move done here with 3 laps to go? Yes, he does. Look up just in front of that battle, though. Look how close that everything has been. And hopefully we can get that one as it pans around here. The Curve of the Soul, and they're side by side. And that is Bowden dropping 2 places there in the pack. And they have lost a whole heap of time. So Rob Bowden, not best pleased with that as he drops those places. But with a handful of laps to go, can't afford to be too downtrodden at this stage. Needs to find a way back through. But every single battle now becomes a case of, well, what can I do for this one more position?
Yeah, that's right. And there's only really about a second and a half splitting these 5 cars, so it can still be anyone's race for that last top 10 position.
Absolutely, and this is key right now. You're seeing Michael Rosenblatt really closing up underneath. It's still on as well between 8th and 9th. That gap, though, has extended to 8/10 of a second at this moment in time. We've got 2 laps to go now here at this circuit. Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, Jake Burton in the lead by 1 second at this point in time, and doing enough to maintain that gap at 1 second here. But you can see now how behind every driver is trying to get themselves into a position, and this small fragmentation of a couple of tenths of a second here and there right now, Nick, is just doing enough to make sure that nobody's rightly placed to have a big lunge down at turn 1.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. And as well, hitting just past 5:15 as well. You can see that sun coming down, so it does look like the sun is setting on Jake Maloney's chance of getting that win out of Jake Burton.
Well, that's going to be crucial as we're still looking at 8th and 9th at the moment. Darren Lobb trying to do everything to get close to get under 4/10 of a second as they head into Desquita del Lago. And this is going to be key in terms of how they approach this battle. They're about 30 seconds now off of the race lead, but they've done really well. Adam Briggs now trying to find a way through. This 4-car scrap's going to continue all the way to the checker.
Yeah, second last time. Back through Ferradura and La Rania. So, yeah, starting to run out of time. It does look like Josh Morris does have the edge over the other 5 guys for this last top 10 position.
And you have to say it's been a great drive from Josh Morris to hold on to that top 10, but it's not over yet. He's still having to defend through corners. The white flag lap here in iRacing signals 1 lap to go for Jake Burton in this field as we focus on the top 10 scrap at this point in time. Briggs and Janssen and Rosenblatt trying to get through on Josh Morris at this stage, heading through the left and up the hill, hoping to try and find the overtake that is so very, very vital. Janssen takes a slightly wider line, and this is going to open the door up here for Adam Briggs to come down the inside and pick up this place. Kostecki and Scott's gap at 1.1 seconds, but the move is done. Morris hard to the pit wall, trying to defend this one from Rosenblatt as well. Briggs has got his move, but look at this from Rosenblatt, trying to go the long way round to get this one done. He can't do it, trying to knit one and purl one, stitch one, up and under. Still can't find the way through, but you can see he's now got himself a great run here towards turn number 4. If he can pick up this top 10, and ultimately looking towards the inside, Adam Briggs is immediately going to go on the offensive here and try and go around the outside of this one. He can't get it done though there at turn number 4, out on track. So Morris starting to hold. You look though towards the front of the field and at just how well things are going. Smart and Lobb close in the scrap as well as they go up towards Ferradura, but Jake Burton, keep an eye on him at the moment because he'll be heading through the final couple of corners at this stage in time, and up through he goes, lights flashing. Has had to work all race long, never quite comfortable with 1 second's margin, but 1 second's all you need here to win here at Interlagos. He is your Monday night winner for this week. Maloney will take second. Kostecki will come up with third position as he gets himself over towards the line with James Scott in fourth. It'll be a long look though at 8th place and co going on as the likes of Shepherd finishes ahead of Cummings, ahead of Talianchis, who did really well actually to get 7th place despite pitting as one of the earliest of the lot here today. But you got a big scrap that's gone on, and something's happened to Josh Morris here on the final lap of this race. So we need to get a replay brought to you by Motum Simulations, because look how many places he's lost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's Noah's Ark over the line as they go in a couple of drag races here and there. Josh Morris will be getting 14th place when all is said and done, as about 8 cars finished within 3 seconds of each other. Let's try and get a replay of what happened to Josh Morris, because he was having to defend hard as we were looking at the race win overall. So this is what's happened here on the Motum Simulation replay. Josh Morris, a huge slide through Jun Sao, can't quite gather it up, and then contact with Janssen there with the torque power coming up the hill, and that is the run killed, and losing 5 places through 1 mistake. You hate to see it, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. It looks like Steve Jensen, whenever there's an incident, he seems to be right in there. But yeah, glad no one was turned around and they all managed to get over the line.
So they can see what happened to one Mr. Josh Morris, whose top 10 is dashed a little bit earlier from home. But official classified results, they are going to be up on your screen in the next few moments, ladies and gentlemen, with some brilliant results that we have seen for drivers. Jake Burton picks up the win in 32 laps worth of racing in a time of 50 minutes and 43 seconds. He wins by 1.1 over Jake Maloney, with Brody Kostecki in 3rd place. It will be James Scott making it 4 Holdens, 1, 2, 3 and 4, with Corey Shepherd 5th and Nick Cummings in 6th place. Michael Talianchis picked up 7th, with Christian Smarts having to hold off hard on the late stages from Darren Lobb to pick up 8th. Lobb in 9th. Michael Rosenblatt rounding out the top 10. Nick with 11 through 20.
Yeah, so we've got Adam Briggs to Rob Bowden, Steve Jansen to Josh Morris, Jack Wittes, unfortunately down 10 positions into 15th, Thomas Hinz to Robin Kirk, Clint Shane Smith, Greg Sharp, and Damian Johnson rounding out the top 20.
Damian Johnson struggled. He was up high in the order. Kurt Stenberg as well, getting a drive-through penalty. That made life a little bit tougher. Dan Hetterscheid, Sam Collins, and then Corey Preston, who is 1 lap down classified, and Brian Borg, who did finish. All 25 drivers did finish this race today, but 4 laps down come the end would be the entirety of the results. So that pretty much puts to one scenario an end to proceedings here today. But there is so much amazing action that happens here with the iRacing Sports Network, with the likes of SimSpeed TV and all the partners, of course, that share this wonderful network, the likes of RaceBot TV, the Global Sim Racing Channel, the likes, of course, of Podium Esports and LSR TV and the like. There is so much great sim racing that happens. You can catch it right here. If you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. But Nick, 1 week's time, the most famous track in Australian sim racing, Mount Panorama Bathurst.
Yeah, that's it. So it'll be a very different approach to Interlagos. So going from the really wide flowing corners of here in Brazil to the very tight and twisting corners of Bathurst.
Those are going to be really interesting to keep an eye out on, as well some of the other broadcasts that SimSpeed TV will have over the week. You've got the Aussie Car 3 series, you've got the V8s on Friday, you've got the Skippies on Thursday, and of course you've got the TCRs on Wednesday. Make sure you check those out as well. But a massive thanks to Motum Simulation, who have sponsored the replay for this one. From Nick Scarriger on my left hand side, from Scott Fountain behind the cameras, Fonty has been doing a great job here today. I've been Jake Sperry. But in the battle of Jakes, it would be Burton who would find himself at the top. He had to work all race long. The strategy of the stop came to play, and now it's an even keel as they head to the greatest place in Australian sim racing. Mount Panorama awaits in 1 week's time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?